So I'm having a little bit of a dilemma here. I was filming and this guy decided he was going to try to eat my camera. Hey, good morning everybody. Welcome to the vlog. I hope the start of your day is absolutely amazing. As for me, we have one day left before we leave for Mexico, and a lot of people have recently been asking, Brian, I want to get my first pet reptile, and I've visited this in the past, but I'm going to revisit it a little bit today and share some of my ideas of what I think are some of the best pet reptiles when it comes to starters. But that doesn't mean that if you've been keeping reptiles for a long time, these animals aren't any good, because to be honest with you, most of the animals I'm going to talk about are good for entry level all the way up to people like me that have been keeping reptiles their entire life. What do you say we have an amazing day together and push all our problems aside and just have a great time? Go down in the comments and let me know how your day is going. I love reading your comments, and while you're down there, can you smash that like button? What do you say we get on the road and get over to the building? Okay, so what do we have here? We're gonna start talking about the best pet reptiles. Let's say that you wanna get your first reptile and you're like, Brian, I don't know what I should get. Should I get a snake? Should I get a lizard? What kind of snake and what kind of lizard? I'm gonna try to break it down the best I can and give you some other options. But let's go ahead and start with a lizard. And if you want something that's really simple to take care of, super hardy, and just really cool animals, and extremely polymorphic, just basically meaning they have tons of different colors and flavors and patterns and all kinds of stuff, of course, a leopard gecko is a great option for you. I've said it before, leopard geckos are one of the easiest animals to care for when it comes to reptiles. I mean, I feed them just mealworms. I don't even feed them crickets or anything like that. I can literally put a bowl of dusted mealworms in there, and that's basically it. So I don't have to feed them every day. Once or twice a week, I just fill up the bowl with new mealworms that are dusted with vitamins, and that's it. Give them fresh water, a hide box, give them all the love that you want. They're also pretty easy when it comes to a setup. They need about a 90 or 95 degree hot spot, but the cool side can be about 82 degrees. Very simple animals, and the good thing is because these guys are nocturnal and basically spend all of the daytime in caves, they really don't need UVB bulbs. So a lot of lizards need expensive lighting. When it comes to leopard geckos, that's not the case. But let's say you want something a little bit bigger than a leopard gecko and something that's just going to chill out. I definitely think a bearded dragon is a great option. Now, the only difference between a bearded dragon and a leopard gecko as far as care is these guys do need UVB light. They do require a lot more food because you have to feed them veggies, and they do like crickets and roaches and superworms and stuff like that. So there's a little bit more care for them as well as setup, but other than that, they're absolutely incredible. They're hardy, they're so personable. I mean, look at Fetty Wap here. He is such a cool animal. And of course, you're looking at the chameleons in the background going, Brian, I want a chameleon. Hey, listen, you could have a chameleon. Maybe not the best starter animal, but if you really do your research and you want something like a captive-born panther or veiled chameleon, that's completely possible. But the biggest thing about those guys is to get captive-born that are well-established from a great breeder, and then make sure you have a really good setup. So if you have a really good screen cage like these guys in back of me, really good foliage and branches for them to climb, UV light, a basking light, and the accessibility to live food, chameleons can work. But again, I'm talking about really entry-level pet animals, and a bearded dragon is a great option. Another really good option if you don't want a bearded dragon, you don't want a leopard gecko, would be a blue-tongued skink. I mean, these guys are amazing, and when you're down in Australia where bearded dragons are from, still oftentimes when you go into a pet shop with someone that's getting their very first reptile and it happens to be a lizard, they will oftentimes say that blue-tongued skinks are even better than bearded dragons, and it's probably because of the ease of care and the fact that the setup isn't quite as expensive and arduous as a bearded dragon. But these guys are super cool. Let me give you a couple tips really quick. You definitely want to get captive produced animals because they do import these guys from Indonesia, and some of the imports don't do very well. But as long as you get a captive bred one, whether it's Indonesian or Australians, which the Australians are the ones I prefer, like this northern blue-tongued skink right here, they do absolutely incredible. I mean, they are one of the easiest animals I've ever cared for, and they are so cool. Their personalities, those cute little faces, this is a great option when it comes to a starter animal. Now, the only problem is the Northerns aren't super cheap. I mean, babies go for like $300 to $400, whereas the Indo stuff will come in and sometimes be as low as $150, so that's a great option. I've just had a better feel when it comes to Northern or Eastern blue-tongue skinks. I just think they're a little bit more docile, they do really well, but the Indo stuff is really beautiful as well. So blue-tongue skinks are great. And I certainly don't want to overlook things like crested geckos, gargoyle geckos, and even lychee geckos. I mean, listen, there are so many cool animals. Heck, even some of the monitor lizards are incredible. And let's not forget tegus. Tegus are incredible animals, but they require a little bit more care, size, energy than, say, what I would consider a starter animal. But those are all really good options. So as you can see, there are tons of cool lizards to look into. But hey, we want to talk about some snakes right now, don't we? And you certainly can't talk about the best pet snakes and not bring up ball pythons first. Of course, ball pythons are amazing animals, and I just think that they're kind of the perfect entry-level snake because they're relatively calm. They get big enough where they're impressive, but not so big that it's scary. And listen, they also are appealing to people like myself that have been doing it forever, and that's mainly because there are so many paint jobs out there. I mean, it's endless. Someone asked me just recently, how many morphs of ball pythons are out there? And when you include not only the base morph but the combinations, there are literally hundreds and hundreds of ball python mutations out there. So you can get basically whatever you want. And this is basically an adult female here. They'll get a little bit bigger, and this is what they would call a pastel crystal. What a beauty she is, isn't she? But they're such incredible snakes, and as babies they're just absolutely cute. But one of the things that's nice about it as a baby is that they're not that small. They are definitely a bigger animal if you're worried about a little fragile snake. And this is basically the size of a baby ball python. This one's about a month and a half or 2 months old, so it's a little bit bigger. It's about 100 grams, whereas they hatch at about 75, so almost the same size. So again, if you have some concerns about a little corn snake or a king snake or something on that line, because they're so small and so fragile, and if you're just starting out, you're thinking, I might hurt that snake, this is a little bit more bulletproof. There's a little bit more to it, and it's really cool. And as you can see, they're absolutely beautiful. This happens to just be a pastel banana here. But like I mentioned, there are a million different colors of these guys. This is an albino black pastel. Just look at the color and pattern on that animal. So the attributes to ball pythons are basically not only are they big enough to make you feel comfortable, they're also extremely easy to handle because they're not super squirmy. I mean, they just kind of chill out like that, and they're just amazing. If there is a downside, guys, unfortunately, ball pythons are known for being a little bit picky when it comes to feeding. As babies, they often want to take live food, and eventually will turn over to frozen thawed relatively quickly, but they also go on hunger strikes every now and then. What I mean by that is sometimes when they're a year or two old, they'll take 2 or 3 months off. So if it's something where you need to have your snake feed every single week or you're stressed out, maybe ball pythons aren't for you. But if you know, hey, listen, as long as the animal looks healthy, it's okay. It's just natural that they take a break from food every now and then. Ball pythons are absolutely something you should look into. All right, what are you doing?
Putting more geckos on the site.
Look at you, you're repping that swag. Look at that. Don't fear. Oh my God. I don't think I've ever seen you wear that shirt.
I wore too hot of a shirt, so I had to change.
Okay, we're leaving tomorrow for Mexico.
I'm so excited, I can't wait.
I was gonna tell you, you're putting geckos on the site?
Yes.
Are you gonna have all the geckos up before we leave?
Every single one.
Are you lying to me right now?
Yes, I'm lying. I'm gonna get about 2 to 3 racks worth of.
How many more racks do you have after this?
Hundreds.
Hundreds. Okay, so she's gonna be here for a while, but I'm not gonna take her unless she has every single gecko up.
You don't have to take me anywhere. I'm going with her without you.
Oh yeah, that was, by the way, that was what, yesterday she said that. She was like, oh, if you're not feeling good, you know, if you don't want to go, that's fine, but I'm still going without you. So that's what I have to deal with. Thank you very much, Lori.
You know, it's very nice of you to put that in the vlog, but I'm not gonna lie, I really need some beach time.
Yeah, so Lori needs some beach time. Okay, I'm gonna let her get back to work. I want all those geckos up on the site, every one of them. Oh wait, we can't put... We can't put that in the vlog. Before moving on to another animal I think that could be really great as a starter, I want to give you some more options if you just don't want a ball python, but you want something kind of similar to a ball python. A bigger python slash boa, but not too big, kind of apartment size, if that makes any sense. And of course, a children's or a spotted python would be a great example. I've talked about these guys just recently. They're a little python from Australia, and this is as big as they get. And again, there's children, spotted, Stimsons, and there's even little pygmy anthill pythons if you want to go. They're a little bit more expensive, but these guys can do really well. Now, they do hatch out really small, but once they get started, they do really good. So if you don't like ball pythons, you want something that does move around a little bit more, but you don't want to colubrid, this is a good option. And then there's sand boas. Now, these guys don't get quite as big as a ball python, obviously. This is basically as big as it gets right here, but sand boas are really cool. Again, there's Kenyans, there's rough scales, there's javelins, there's Indian smooth scales. I mean, there are all kinds of different sand boas, so they're a cool kind of option, and most of them are being produced readily in captivity now, so you can get a really good captive born one that does really well, that doesn't get really large. It's definitely a good option for a smaller boa. And speaking of boas, I'm going to move on to the next animal that I think makes an amazing pet. Now, I'm going to just preference by saying I'm not a super big fan of someone getting their first snake as a boa because they are a relatively larger constrictor. The fact is that they're not one of the big giants. I mean, even the biggest boas typically max out at 8 or 10 foot, and they are gentle giants. I mean, these guys can make incredible pets. I've been working with boas since I was 15 years old, and I can tell you they are amazing animals. So again, I'm not sure I'm suggesting getting a boa as a first-time pet, but if you want something that's kind of big, but you're not really ready to step up to the plate to a reticulated python or a Burmese python, which by the way, I don't think you should as a starter animal, a boa constrictor is a pretty good option. And much like the ball pythons, they come in tons of different paint jobs. Not as many as ball pythons or corn snakes. There are dozens of different colors and patterns and flavors of these guys. Super cool. And then there are some like of the Central American stuff, as well as a handful of other locality animals that do stay relatively small. They'll max out at 4, 5, maybe 6 foot. So boa constrictors can make really good pets, and much like the ball pythons, they're good for starters, beginners, because they're hardy, but people that have been keeping reptiles for 30 plus years can still keep boa constrictors because they are amazing. But just like the other animals, I want to give you a couple other options if boas just aren't your thing. A rainbow boa can actually be a relatively different alternative to a boa constrictor. They still get pretty big, certainly bigger than a ball python, but still stay in that range where they're not one of the giants. Now again, I don't really know that a starter would want to work with the Brazilian rainbow boa because they are a little bit more touchy. If you get the humidity too low, they can perish pretty quickly. But with a little bit of experience, or at least a tremendous amount of research and the proper setup to make sure that your humidity levels and everything is perfect, rainbow boas can be a pretty decent option, and they are absolutely gorgeous. Another pretty big animal, but not monster animal, would be Woma pythons, of course. I absolutely love Woma pythons, and I actually think a Woma python is a better option than a rainbow boa, really, because the requirements to keep them doesn't take as much care. The only problem is you want to, again, get a really well-started baby if you're going to go with a little one, because these guys can be a little bit finicky when they're first born, but once they start eating and doing well, these guys are bulletproof. In every experience I've had with the Woma python, with the exception of that male that seems to want to bite everything, has been absolutely amazing. So I'm having a little bit of a dilemma here. I was filming and this guy decided he was going to try to eat my camera. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Let go. What the heck is going on? Okay, buddy. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do here. I certainly don't want him to eat my camera. All right. Way to go, bud. With all that said, I'll be honest, I think probably the best alternative to a boa, if for whatever reason you don't want to get a boa constrictor, would be these Dumerals boas. They get roughly the same size, but their temperament is absolutely amazing. They are so gorgeous and so beautiful and such amazing animals. I think that they're kind of my favorite of that kind of mid-sized constricting animal. I mean, I just think they're absolutely incredible. So that basically wraps up the kind of mid-sized boa, python-y type of thing. Let's move on to colubrids, in particular corn snakes. For as long as I've been keeping snakes, pretty much the standard answer to what's the best starter snake has always been the corn snake. Really, until ball pythons started to be really readily captive bred, they weren't even in the equation because they were coming from West Africa and they were such poor feeders, people didn't think they were great options when it came to pets. So corn snakes kind of reigned supreme. Now that ball pythons are being bred so much, I think ball pythons are a little bit better starter because because they're not as small and squiggly as babies. That being said, I still think that corn snakes have so much to offer. They're kind of a snake that will get 5 to 6 foot long, but only about this big around. This is a yearling here, and you can see how unbelievably docile, and look at the colors on these things. Much like ball pythons and boas and some of the other things like leopard geckos, there are tons of different color phases and paint jobs of these guys. These probably rival ball pythons when it comes to potential mutations. There is so many colors and choices to choose from, and again, they're a little bit easier set up than a ball python. If you want an animal that moves around more than a ball python, corn snakes are absolutely incredible. If you get a good baby that's well started on frozen pinkies or even fuzzies to that matter, you are in good shape. That animal is going to be fantastic, and it's going to live 20, 25, maybe even 30 years for you. It's going to be an amazing little friend to you. But that's not the only colubrid. I just think it's the best colubrid. There's also rat snakes like the scaleless Texas rat snakes. There are milk snakes like Pueblans and Hondurans and all kinds of others, as well as king snakes like Cal Kings, Mexican black kings, all of the host of things. Those are all awesome colubrids if you don't want a corn snake for whatever reason it might be. There are so many options, although I still think corn snakes are the best colubrid snake to keep when it comes to kind of starting out. But after that, the possibilities are endless. So I hope that this kind of answered the question that I get asked all the time. What should I get if I'm just starting out in snakes? Or hey, if you've had snakes for a long time, there's a lot of potential to get into things that maybe you haven't been working with. So I hope this answered the question, what reptile should I get if I'm just starting to get into reptiles? Or hey, if you've already been keeping reptiles for a long time, here's some other options that you might want to pursue, because the potential is just so crazy when it comes to these reptiles, and I love them so much. And I just hope that you give them a chance. If you've never kept a snake, go out and give them a chance. If you do, you're going to be hooked and obsessed, just like I am. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and shut down the vlog. Tomorrow we leave for Mexico, so I come here in the morning, say my goodbyes to my animals, and then we're on a plane and off to Central America. It's going to be absolutely incredible, and I can't wait to bring you guys along. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for tuning in today. You guys mean the world to me, and your support is incredible. I love you so much. Can you do me a couple favors before we get out of here? Can you smash that like button, as well as turn those post notifications on so you know when I upload a video, which is every day, 7 days a week at 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time. Remember to be kind to someone today, and I promise I'm going to see you guys tomorrow.